Hi, my name's Todd. Thanks for joining me today. And I want to compare the story of Jacob's ladder with this woman Yolaine's near-death experience. Why? Well, because I think they both teach the same lesson, and they do it basically in the same way. And to my mind, if God's teaching us something through His Scripture and through actual experience, well, maybe it's a lesson we need to pay attention to. What's the lesson, you might ask? Well, it's fairly simple. He wants us to reorient our thinking, in Matrix terms, He wants us to take the red pill. See this world for what it really is and not for what it appears to be. And in both these stories, the near-death experience and Jacob's ladder, they're both structured the same way. There's a setup, what's gone wrong in this person's life, and they have the vision. It's the vision where God says to them the things He says to them. And then number 3, what we have is this shift, this change, this reorientation of seeing things in a new way. And so what I'm going to do here is walk you through these 3 steps. We'll look at each character. We'll go Jacob first, and then look at what Yolaine says about her experience. We'll use a video clip for her, and hopefully see the similarities that I'm talking about. Okay, the setup for Jacob is fairly straightforward because it's all recorded in Scripture. He has swindled his brother out of his birthright. He's deceived his father to steal Esau's inheritance. And Esau, shall we say, is ticked off. Jacob's mother says, hey, Esau wants to kill you. You better split, leave the country, go to your uncle Laban's house. So he does. So if you're Jacob right now, how you feeling? Not too good, I'd say, right? Alone, isolated, nobody loves me. Everything that I thought I've done right as far as getting ahead, it's all come to nothing. Here I am out on my own, fearing for my life. So, not going so well. In Yolaine's case, she feels likewise. The things that she's wanted in life, the simple pleasure she's been looking for, have been denied. And now she too, you'll see, isn't in a good place.
I had just wanted simple things. I wanted a happy family. I wanted children. I wanted a little house with a little garden. So everything was revolved around the idea of me having a family, but none of that was happening. My ex was verbally abusive, manipulative, and controlling. I was absolutely miserable, and I became depressed. One thing that kept me going was the thought of having children. If I have children, then life will be happy. The straw that broke the camel's back for me was being told I was infertile. I just then started thinking about killing myself.
So hopefully what you see here is that Jacob is worried about being killed, and Yolaine, she wants to kill herself. These are 2 people who are desperate, and they're looking for a way out. They're looking for an escape. So the next part of Jacob's story is he lays himself down for sleep, puts his head on a rock. And this may not seem like a big deal, but 18th century scientist, theologian Emanuel Swedenborg says that, everything in Scripture has meaning. Every detail has some deeper sense to it. And laying his head on a rock is actually is symbolically good. Because Jacob has been all about himself, how to get ahead and how, all about me, right? Laying your head on a rock, it's about connecting with truth. Think about the 10 Commandments. They were carved out of stone. Stone is a representation of foundational truth, right? Don't steal, don't cheat, don't lie, right? Really basic things, which doesn't sound like a huge step up, but it's a big step up for Jacob, because for the first time, he's actually thinking about, hey, maybe my whole life is wrong. Maybe this isn't working out. And this is what God says to him as he goes to sleep. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth. You will spread out to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. All peoples on the earth will be blessed through you and through your offspring. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Can you imagine that? Jacob in this desperate state, nobody loves me, I'm on my own, and all of a sudden, the Creator says, I'm with you, and I'm going to be with you wherever you go. It's a big one, and something very similar happens to Yolaine. This is what she says.
And then one night, it was as if God said, enough of this. All of a sudden, it was as if my room was flooded with 1,000 floodlights. It was lit up. Everything was illuminated. And I'm very nearsighted, but I could see everything clearly without my glasses. I could see down the hall. I could see the pattern on the bedspread. I could see myself in the mirror. We had a mirror in the room. I could see my reflection in the mirror. I looked out the window and the sky was blue, even though this was the middle of the night. I forgot about wanting to die at that moment. And then all of a sudden, I became one with that light. I was absorbed into this incredible bath of warmth, of unconditional love. To me, that was God. And I felt at home. I just wanted to stay there forever. And it was almost like at that thought, I was like, oh no, we can't stay here forever. It gently retreated and I was back in my bedroom and I looked up and oh my God, that was Jesus. And he said, don't waste your life thinking you're not loved. And as soon as on that word loved, I was back in my dark room.
Wow, right? Wow, what a shift of perspective. Don't waste your life going through it thinking you're unloved. These are different words than what Jacob gets, but to me, the sense of it, the deeper side of it is the same. You're loved. I'm going to be with you no matter where you go. Wouldn't you like to have God come and tell you that? Well, he is. That's why he has the scripture to tell you these exact same things. You know, a lot of times we go through life feeling like just a tiny little speck. You know, oh, I'm insignificant. But when the creator of the universe shows up and says to you, hey, I love you, I'm looking after you, boy, you know, you start to think, well, maybe I do matter. And this is what we see with Jacob and Yolaine. They both have a shift and start to have to think about, well, maybe I'm seeing the world wrong. So scripture says that when Jacob woke up from this dream, he says, surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. It's like, oh wow, you know, he was right here, and I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I didn't realize it. Now, Jacob still doesn't fully get it in the sense that God's not literally in that one spot. He's everywhere. But this is a huge reorientation for him to see that, well, God's here with me, and I didn't realize it. Yolaine, she has a similar kind of reaction of, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to rethink things. And this is what she says.
I had to rethink everything in light of that experience. I am responsible for my happiness. Nobody else is. My circumstances don't cause me to become depressed. I cause my depression with my thoughts.
For her, it's, oh wow, right? I don't need to be depressed. Just because my husband's a jerk doesn't mean I have to be depressed. I'm being depressed because I'm letting myself be depressed. So this is a big change, right? She's shrugging off the whole victim mentality. It's no longer poor me. It's like, well, what am I going to do? So at the end of the story for Jacob, what he ends up doing is he makes this deal with God. You know, he pours oil on the rock and blesses the place and says, I'm going to make a memorial to it. And basically says to God, if you do all these wonderful things for me, you look after me, I'm going to give you 1/10 of what you give. As if God needs 1/10 of anything because God's got everything in the first place. So Jacob's still not there yet. But Yolaine, she goes through life and realizes, hey, I'm going to do things differently now. And she ends up finding a guy that she marries who has values that align with hers. For us, I think the key is to notice that connection with God. It comes about when Jacob lays his head down that rock. And what Swedenborg tells us is that in ancient times, when people wrote stories like the creation story and Noah's Ark, they saw the world as a representation or symbolic of a heavenly spiritual reality. Everything that we saw was supposed to remind us of something higher. And that's what Jacob and Yolaine have had to learn in this story too. That everything in life points to something higher. When you see the sun, you think of God's love and His wisdom. When you see the ocean, just think of these sea of facts and truth. When you think of climbing a mountain, you think of your highest states. Birds represent our thoughts. So the goal is that every time we look around, we see God, we see spiritual reality. And as a result, we feel loved because we are part of that. It's a huge change of perspective. It's like I say at the beginning, it's taking that red pill. So I hope you find that useful, because if you can go through life feeling loved, well, hey, I think that would be a useful thing. I think we would be in a better world and a better place if we could always look around and see God and feel loved. I can't say that I'm always doing that right myself, but hey, Lord, I am trying. Thank you so much for watching. I have set up a Patreon account if you want to share contact details for some future events. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with it, but I will send out a PDF of material on this topic if you are interested. Thanks so much for watching. All the best. God bless.